Well, hello everyone. Now I'm back home and enjoying myself because when you're on the road for a while, and I was for the past several weeks, it's nice to be home. I'm not gonna lie, it really is. Hey Jan and hey Janine, great to see you. Yeah, it was a it was a interesting drive back from Indianapolis. I'll say that. Definitely not boring. Oh, and hey Kurt. Yeah, it and Drew, hey, you are on time, and Damaris too. So good job on that. Woohoo! So yes, I it was a crazy drive back, and with I know some people ask why I don't fly to conventions because all that time on the road, and it's pretty simple. I have way too much stuff. I mean, the instruments, it would be tough. I could maybe do it, but when you add in CDs and signage and merch and all of that kind of thing, it just becomes impossible. So, yeah, I mean, you look at the numbers and you say a couple of days travel versus all of the headache, kind of worth it, unless you have a day job that you can't do that with. But yeah, it's definitely worth it. It is definitely worth it. And yes, oh, and Alicia's here too. Yay! Hi. So yeah, great. Thanks for joining in and everything. So yes, do please like and share the stream on Facebook if you can. I appreciate it. And hey, Kathy on YouTube. Yes, yeah. And before from Indy on Monday, I did lower the bit rate a little bit, and I know some of you thought the lighting was a little weird and it looked like I was kidnapped. I understand. But yeah, I looked back at the video and it actually wasn't bad. YouTube looked fine. It wasn't a problem at all. On Facebook, I'd say you could tell a slight difference. There's a little pixelization, so I'm going to work on that. But at least I know YouTube can be okay. I'm going to have to lower that bit rate a little bit more here and there and tweak it as much as I can so that when I'm in Louisiana here in about a month, I can, yeah, I can fit those streams in the bandwidth and that I have access to. I'm working on that a lot. Yeah, actually, that's a good question. Has anybody else been on some good road trips? I mean, for me, well, for those of you that don't remember or haven't been following, I mean, this is where I've been. Little Dragon Con and Gen Con action here. This is, yeah, this is where I was at on Labor Day weekend and a couple of weeks after that. And then in between, I drove back from Atlanta to Austin, and then jumped right into the Sherwood Celtic Festival here. And then a couple of days later, boom, right back to Indianapolis, driving on a lot of the same road I drove back on up to Indy to get there. So always fun. Kurt, yes, I'll be in Louisiana for mostly a month and a half. It's a 6-weekend fair, and I'm doing the full run. And yeah, that's I'll probably stop back here during one of the weeks, maybe. We'll see. I usually do, just to make sure the house hasn't burned down. I have roommates and they watch the place, but you know how that goes. So I like to check in and take care of some stuff. But so I may come back during that time, but generally 6 weeks. So definitely a bit crazy. Always fun. But yeah. So a lot of travel, not boring, I will say. Yeah, so I guess oh, Janine doesn't usually go anywhere, 15 minutes each way. That can be nice. Yeah, and Drew, I know TRF is right around the corner. You are not wrong. And for those of you that don't know, that's the Texas Renaissance Festival. I know there's more than one TRF out there in the country, but this is the Texas Renaissance Festival, not Tennessee, just so you know. But the Magnolia Stroll, nice. And for Drew, I mean, that's fairly local. I mean, like Sherwood is for me outside of Austin. Doing those local fairs is very nice because you get to stay at home, and I love that. Makes it a lot easier. And you kind of get to do that with even the local region fairs. You can go up there for the weekend and then drive back during the week. But it makes it a little tough when you're traveling far. Wow. Okay. Very nice. Yeah, Drew, like 45 minutes, not bad at all. I mean, by Texas standards, that's very local. right? Very much. And Drew, yeah, commuting. Yeah, 45 minutes there and back. I'd stay the night at home. I wouldn't camp. I know some people really like the camping and it is nice, but when you're working out there, it's different. I mean, you don't stay up till 2 a.m. because you've got to be 110% the next day for the entire day. So you don't go out Friday night and then stay up late on Friday and Saturday night. I mean, when you're just having fun and visiting out there for a weekend, you can do that, and that's great. Because you're just letting loose and having fun. But when you're working, you gotta take it seriously. It's important. It is important. Very, very true. So yeah, for those of you that saw the show last week, yeah, I mean the the slightly reduced bitrate show where with very reduced lighting. I mentioned before that. Yeah, I'm going to be working on music very seriously. I mean, I took a lot of notes from Gen Con and Dragon Con. I'm still going over them. But one of the big things that I know I need to work on and get taken care of is I really need to get some of those CDs that have been on my drawing board out and done. Not that CDs are as much of a thing people buy anymore, but the music done. And so I'm going to be working on that heavily over the next few months. Starting in a couple of days, I'm going to dive right in, and every day I will be working on it some. So yeah, I'll be sharing a little bit of that with y'all if y'all are interested. If you're not, don't worry, I'll keep it short. But I always find the artistic process fascinating. And I don't think I'm alone, because there are enough reality shows out there, like whether you're dealing with cooking or you're dealing with fashion design, that people seem fascinated by. So yeah, I'll share a little bit just to give you some tidbits of what's going on in Andrew world. But yes, that will be part of what I'm doing. Oh yeah, I'm also working hard on figuring out the live streaming thing. The thing is, for me, I'm going to be in Louisiana. I am not going to have good internet connection. And maybe I can go somewhere and find something, find a place I can use, but that gets rough as well. So I'm doing two main things with that, and I'll share that over the next few weeks too, how that progresses. But two things: I'm going to put together a travel live stream kit, and just in one bag that has all of the stands and lights and camera and everything I need. So that will work out well. And I also need good internet. So I've been looking into it, and I think I'm going to use a hotspot. So go the cellular route. I'm going to be testing that and looking. I've already done a lot of research. I'm going to keep doing some research and testing that over the next few weeks and see how viable that is. But I'm going to have to really tweak the bit rate in the video, and we'll see how well that works. But yeah, yes, I think I found a hotspot that has unlimited data, and that is going to be key. So I'll keep you updated on that as that progresses, and I think that's kind of interesting, because yeah, if it works well, it's also not that expensive, which is very nice. Oh, and Janine, thanks. Yeah, okay. A CD or two would be a nice Christmas gift. I'll keep that in mind. And I am working on that. I should have some stuff done by Christmas for sure. But I'm not kidding. I'm going to be diving in full out in a couple of days. And every day I will be working on it. I'll be working on 2 CDs at once, because I actually have 2 CDs that I've been working on back and forth here and there over the last, well, a long while actually. And then with Life's a Faire, I kind of put a lot of things on hold to kind of get that going and help out other performers for last year and really get that going. And that took up so much time. So I put a lot of that on hold, but that comes to an end. And Kathy, okay, so CDs are more practical for you. And Chris, okay, that's nice. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. One thing Gen Con and Dragon Con showed me was that CDs, well, I mean, there were people that came up to the table and said, I don't even own a CD player anymore. I don't have one in my car. I don't have one on my computer. And I couldn't even play it if I wanted to. And that's happening more and more. They don't come with computers anymore. Laptops, it's hard to find one with a CD player. Desktops, pretty much impossible. even if you're building your own, it's hard to find a case that includes a slot for a CD or DVD drive. It's that bad. So it's getting tough. So I think we're kind of, to put it in perspective, it's kind of like we're in the late 90s and people at Faire are still selling off their cassette tapes. I think that's kind of where we are. We're kind of in that realm where you don't see, you're starting to see the end of the format, unfortunately. Everybody's used to streaming. But I mean, there still are a bunch of us, me included, who have computers with CD or DVD drives because we still want to have access to that medium. So, yeah, I mean, it's tough. So I'm working on that, and I am coming up with ideas on how to sell my music in a digital way that makes sense, is fair to the people buying, but also interesting to them, something they would like. So that's a process I'm working on, and that should be fun. Because every musician I know is fighting and struggling with that idea of how to do it, because there is no standard way right now except put your music on Spotify, tell people it's on Spotify, and don't earn any money. Patreon has been a thing, but yeah, I'm still working on it. I'll keep you all updated on that. So always fun. Wow. Okay, 6 CD changer. That's not common. Yeah, you should, Janine, see if it works. See if it works. Always good. But yeah, that is interesting. The live streaming thing is tough. I'm going to keep working on that and seeing, and we'll see how it happens. With sales, what I would do is I'd use my phone or a tablet for Square. And if you're familiar with Square, it's an application for making sales on a digital device, like a credit card sale. And they have readers that you can attach to the phone or the tablet, and it works well. A lot of performers just use it on their phones, or they get a dedicated tablet. I got a dedicated tablet like this several years ago for the purpose. T-Mobile was doing a deal with an HP tablet where you got 250 megs of free data per month on their service, free for life, for the life of the tablet. And I did the math, and 250 megs, that's 4,000 Square transactions minimum per month. And if I do more than that, well, I'll afford the bigger plan. But that served me pretty well. And between my cell phone that has Verizon and this that was T-Mobile, I pretty much always could guarantee I had service. So that's kind of how I approached it. But, Janine, she's saying that, yeah, okay, the download Patreon of the flash drive. Okay. Yeah, I mean, being able to just get a particular song can be nice. It's iTunes sort of changed that world where all of a sudden people could just buy a particular one song for $1 kind of thing, and that made a huge difference in the world. I mean, all of a sudden it was like the old days, back to tapes or long play records weren't a thing. It was singles that were on records back in the 50s that were so big, and it's kind of like the whole industry has gone backwards in a way, or repeated itself. So yeah, that's been an interesting thing as well. Yes, you're right. But Janine, I mean, they do kind of go in the secondhand market, but fewer and fewer people are interested in CDs. So that's kind of been a problem. That has been a problem. Yeah. Oh, the other thing I'm working on now, because, I guess this is what the show is about, what Andrew's working on. Sorry about that. I promise the next one I won't dwell on this, at least not as much, was signage. Because at Gen Con, I ran out of time to do a sign. And the general way you do it is, well, I mean, several years ago I asked some of the other performers like Paulo Garbanzo and others how they did signs, and he said, well, here, okay. He said that the easy way was to, when you're on the road, is to just go and get like a drop cloth made out of canvas from Home Depot or Lowe's or whatever, and cut it up as you need it, or do full size and get out the paints and do it. And that is how generally performers will make their signs. Now, I'm not an artist or graphic designer. I pretend to be one. And I can spend 10 times as long as somebody like Paulo does with painting and drawing and make it look okay. And that's kind of what I've done in the past. But I'm looking... Oh, Harbor Freight's good too. Yeah, you're right, Drew. That is another example, depending on where you are in the country and the availability. Oh, Janine. Okay, I'll keep that in mind. But I'm trying a new format. Actually, let me show you. I think I have let's see. I think I have an example here. Okay. Yeah, here's my old sign. You can kind of see it over here. Andrew McKee, the Irish Bard. And I did that myself. And I took a lot of time to do it, not going to lie. But I'm proud of it. I think all things considered for me, I think it worked out pretty well. It's kind of evolved. I've redone it a few times since this picture. This is an older picture. But, yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah. But I've kind of updated a little bit, and this is what I came up with for the design currently. And see, just add a little more color and a little cover those little extra boundaries a little bit and add my logo at the bottom. But yeah, I think that's kind of going to be nice. And it's yeah, I didn't want to go too complicated because oh right, yeah, Mrs. Jaquim, yeah, that's or Joaquim is as an amazing artist. That is true. I do remember that. Oh right. I think this will work well. I'm actually having it printed on on fabric, and I'll have that in about a week, and I'll see how that works. It's either going to look good or it's really bad. I know some performers actually print it on vinyl and say that if you do it right, it actually looks good and they get away with it at Faire. I never wanted to do that. I never wanted to go the vinyl route. But yeah, that's... I mean, I get it. If it looks okay from afar, why not? But once I saw that the cost of printing it on fabric has come down a lot to where it's pretty close to the same as vinyl, I'm like, I'm going to give it a try. If it doesn't work, you saw before, I have plenty of drop cloth and we can use those. So I might be painting anyway, but if this works, it may help for a little bit of the signage I need, especially the small things like I want to have some good signage for my Venmo and PayPal accounts for tips and everything, because that's become a thing too. It's not just cash in a jar. It's also yeah, people wanting that, and it's becoming more and more common. Yeah, and Drew, yeah, that's what I heard, that if you do the right style, that it can look fine, and that's what I heard, but there's still that part of me that I'm hesitant to do that. If I don't have to, I'd like to not do that. And this is actually going to wrap around the back of my pack basket, so it's not just going to be against a wall or something. So this, I thought, needed to be a little more flexible. So yeah, and people are going to be up right next to it, because the pack basket's where on top of it, I put usually my tip bucket and some other information and CDs. Yes, Katsurita, that is an interesting idea, to embroider a cross stitch. Yeah, that could work, because it's already printed. It wouldn't be near as hard to do that. That makes a lot of sense. Time to learn. Well, see, the reason I'm doing this is because I don't have the time. I'm trying to see if I can do this, because if I spend a lot of time, I think I can do a pretty good job. One of the, well, here on the earlier sign, I mean, one of the things that one of the odd moments of the last few years for me was when I first did this sign several years ago. I was out in front of the Louisiana Ren Fair busking, or, well, yes, busking, really, playing for the people who were waiting to get in before the fair opened. And one of the local artists, Maris, who does face painting but also sells her art there at her booth and is actually well known, as an artist, she just walked by, stopped, and stared at my sign. And I was kind of like, oh God, what's going on? Is the alignment off? Is it crooked? What? And she just kind of came over, studied the sign for about a minute full, just staring at it while I was playing music. Weirded me out. And then finally she just went, pretty good. And then walked on, and that's all she said. But I was kind of like, for me, that was like total validation. Like, okay, all that extra time I spent on that, totally worth it. Even the time I spent to figure out what font I wanted to use. Wow. So yeah, I always believe in stuff like that. If you have any talent at all, if you take that extra amount of time, you can do a good job. Maybe not great, and I don't think I did a great job there, but at least okay to hopefully good. And that's the trick. You just have to have the patience and take the time. Yes. The art part is, I know my limitations. I really can't draw. I can kind of copy and scale. Like I can see something and make it larger on a different sheet of paper and do a good job. Do a really good job doing that. I've always been good at that. Learned that in elementary school and junior high with maps. But that's sort of my skill. I guess I have a little bit of help with calligraphy. My mom always loved calligraphy too. She was always good at that. So maybe that's a little genetic, but pure out drawing, not my game. No. A lot of people I know are much better at it than I am. So either I need to hire somebody to do it or go try printing. And for now, I'm going to try printing for the short term. For some of the more important signs, I might try to get somebody to do it. See if I can hire somebody to do it. But there's plenty of signs that I need short-term stuff. I mean, quick turnaround that I might need to just order a new one every 6 months or something. So we'll see. We'll see. Oh, right. Those chisel type. Sure. Actually, I use paint pens, Janine. I use the paint pens for the detail work on that, and they worked really well. I like those. That was a recommendation Paulo made. He said, for stuff that small and detailed, I mean, you don't need full, tubes of paint. You could just use paint pens, and that would do the job. So that's how I did that, and I was pretty happy with it. The Et tu tip bucket too, I thought worked really well. Yeah. I mean, what I did was I found the font I wanted and then just copied it. I mean, I just put it up right next to it and used pencil to kind of figure it out. And if you went really close to it, you could see some of my pencil marks, but they were very faint. I tried to keep them there, and probably what Maris was looking at when she came up close. But you really couldn't see it otherwise. And yeah, I just sort of worked a little bit, made some edits and changed, erased, and did that, and it worked pretty well. I mean, it's tedious, but it worked. And interesting. Yeah, and we'll see. If it works well, I'll let you know, and I'll show you. Hopefully the next, hopefully I'll have it before the next show, and I'll actually show it to you and let you know what I think. It's either going to be really good or really bad. I'm pretty sure of that, so we'll see. We shall see. So hopefully the new one, which will look like this, will be good. Here is hoping. Yeah, canvas, you can't really trace through that. That just doesn't work. Oh, yeah, iron-on or carbon would probably work. You're right. That would work. But, once again, I went bare minimum, and a lot of that work I did on the road, where I didn't have access to everything I would at home. So that was the problem. That first sign I showed you, I did that in Louisiana, and it took a few weeks. But I got it. I was pretty proud of how it turned out, all things considered. But that was several years ago. So now it's time for an upgrade. Signage is very important. It really is. And oh, wow, it's already 7:20. Oh, my gosh, I got to rush. I'm sorry, I've been dwelling on this a lot. Yeah, this is actually a font. I spent a long time looking for fonts. This font is called Perigord, and I ended up just copying that. I really liked it. I thought it kind of had a. I wanted something that wasn't exactly Celtic, wasn't exactly Renaissance. I mean, it kind of had this old timey look to it that could fit almost anything, and I thought that did the job. Um, yeah, 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 acrylic. Yeah, definitely. Anyway, okay. Well, let's go ahead and jump into the fairs coming up because I'm already talking way too much. Sorry about that. Let's see. Fairs coming up. We have a good number. A few less than last week. I think we went down from 18 to was it 15? I think. But that's normal. We're kind of in that transition time between the end of summer and the beginning of autumn. And in the next few weeks, like Drew talked about with TRF, a lot of the fall fairs are going to be popping up, and especially in the south, in the deep south, as the weather gets a bit cooler. Yeah, very good, very good. Let's see. Yeah, let's jump in and make this a little larger so you can see it. All right, we have a lot of the same fairs as last week are continuing on, starting a lot in the Northeast, of course, in the Midwest. Also, we're starting with starting to get into the South a little bit at the end of September when that temperature starts to change. But let's start in the Northeast and go with Massachusetts, with King Richard's Fair in Carver, Massachusetts. And next to that, we have, let's see, next to that, we have the Connecticut Renaissance Fair in Lebanon, Connecticut. So two big fairs. Oh, and even next to that, New York, another big one. New York Renaissance Fair in Tuxedo Park, New York. So three big fairs, well, by Texas standards, right next to each other. I know they don't think that up there, but very close. Then two fairs in Pennsylvania. We have the Pennsylvania Renaissance Fair in Mannheim and the Pittsburgh Renaissance Festival in West Newton, Pennsylvania. And then below that, we go to Maryland with the Maryland Renaissance Festival in Annapolis. Now, when you start moving over, getting a little bit towards the west, we have the Ohio Renaissance Festival in Waynesville, Ohio. And a little north of that, we have the Michigan Renaissance Festival still going on in Holly, Michigan. So, yeah, a lot of fairs in that space up there, and kind of close together, which, so if you live around that area, you really have no excuse, just throwing it out, unless you're in Canada, which means you can't cross the border. But other than that, you really should check it out. Okay, going into the Midwest, we have, we have the Minnesota Renaissance Festival in Shakopee, Minnesota, and south of that, we have the Riversance Festival in Sioux City, Iowa. So, wow, that one is a new one this week, so something to check out. And of course, we have the standard Missouri-Kansas fairs around this time, Kansas City Renaissance Festival in Bonner Springs, Kansas, and the St. Louis Renaissance Fair in Wentzville, Missouri. And then we start jumping into the south a little bit, getting their time in as autumn has come upon us. The Tennessee Medieval Fair in Harriman, Tennessee, always interesting. And let's see, we also have the Carolina Renaissance Festival in Huntersville, North Carolina. So that is exciting. Good stuff. The South coming in as the temperatures change. Then going over to California, we still have the Northern California Renaissance Fair in Hollister, California. And that finishes us out. So a good number of fairs, something to look at. The fall, we're just going to get a bunch more here in the next few weeks. So be prepared for a lot more editions. Should be very interesting and a lot of fun. Okay. Excellent. Okay. Whew. Okay. Janine's saying she just remembered something. Someone was in. Oh, wow. You can do calligraphy? Okay. Wanted a small wooden sign. We may talk, Janine. Okay. That's okay. Good to know. And Kevin's saying we're getting high 80s here in Georgia. Interesting. Yeah, that's actually for the South. That's actually starting to cool off. That's when you start to. The end of September is when, actually mid to late September, it starts getting into the 80s as a high, and then October, it goes even lower, and you start getting into the 70s. The high 70s is a high sometimes in October, and always in October you get the one cold front. You can always count on one cold front in October, just to bring the temperature down to the 50s to remind you that summer is over. I love that. I love that. So should be a lot of fun. Okay, now I guess I'm already like running over here. I was talking way too much about the past few weeks. Sorry about that and what I have going on. But let's jump into 7 reasons, because I know if I don't do it, somebody's going to yell at me, and it's probably going to be Kristen. So let's do 7 reasons. Okay, so I thought, since I was working on signage so much, 7 reasons why signage is so important at Ren fairs. There's lots of reasons, right? You're probably already thinking of reasons why signage is so important. Well, here you go. The 7th reason why signage is so important at Ren fairs, because people keep asking us where the closest privy is, and signage helps with that. If you have signs that easily say privy, restroom, whatever this way, people know where it is. And when you gotta go, you gotta go. You don't always have time to just casually look around and check out all the signage, so it needs to be obvious and present. Some fairs do a great job at this. Other fairs, let's be honest, not so much. So I think that's an important one. That is, I think a lot of people who come to fairs would agree. Number 6, knowing if shops take MasterCard and Lady Visa. I just thought that was hilarious the first time I saw that sign, the first time I went to Faire back in, 1990, I think, was the first year I went to Faire, and made me laugh so much. We take both MasterCard and Lady Visa, such a fair thing to say, and I still see those signs to this day. I'd love to see when when that started and find out who first came up with that. If anybody knows, let me know. Drew, you might know, but I haven't heard the origin of that. I bet it's fascinating. Number 5, remember the performers' names for exit surveys. Because I've the number of times I've had somebody on an exit survey say the recorder guy. Always a dangerous thing, so you always want to have the sign available. And one of the reasons I didn't change my sign too much is because usually they'll remember my name, Andrew McKee, the Irish bard, or they'll do one or the other. And even though it's a pretty simple sign, people seem to read it and get the point. So most of the time, they do get my name right. Always important. Exit surveys can be very important for performers. Let me tell you, it can matter as to whether they get rehired or not. I'm not lying. So number 4, and I'm seeing not to put things in your mouth. That is probably a good thing. Yes, I see that. Chescapades for morning fight call. I like that. Right. Okay. Number 4, tipping is harder these days. Yes, you need to have the signs that say this is a QR code for how to send me money over Venmo or Patreon or PayPal or whatever. And people don't carry cash as much as they used to. Usually people try to remember to do that at Faire strictly for tipping, and we appreciate it. But it's becoming less and less common. So that's important. You need signs just to understand how to transfer money. Kind of nuts. But that's the world we live in. Number 3, have to listen for yelling to find the joust. Because sometimes you go to a fair and you're like, where's the joust? And you just listen for the yelling and you're like, okay, that way. And that's how you find it, because you don't see much signage for the joust, and it's important. At fairs over the years, that has been maybe not the most common question, but it's high on the list. Where's the joust? I get that all the time. It's kind of nuts. But signage is good for that. Signage can be its own entertainment. It's not just like MasterCard and Lady Visa, which was definitely the first sign chuckle moment I got at Faire. that I remember when I first went. But yeah, you can actually, there are signs that say funny things, whether it's like this Robin Hood wanted for this, and have a funny sign out of Sherwood, or to have signs that just have great puns or make people laugh. I mean, there, I see it at a lot of different fairs, and if it's really well done, it really adds to the entertainment at the fair for people coming in, for patrons. I mean, it is a real great thing. I mean, it's its own show if done right at a fair. Oh, free magic. I like that. That's a good one, Drew. Free magic. Wow. Okay. Nice, nice. Yes, those are the comedy in signs is important. Number one, so you can remember where you parked. Let's be honest. After a long day at fair, the heat or the cold. I mean, the food coma you're in after eating so much, the overwhelming stimulation. All of a sudden, you come out and you're like, "Where did I park?" And some fairs, they have signs. Big signs that say this is this aisle, this is this row, this section, and you can remember that when you first park and leave, and they'll make sure you remember that information. Sometimes they don't have that, and it can be rough finding your car at different fairs. I've seen people have trouble, and signs are so good for that. I mean, signs are there to help you when you forget, and that's, I think, an important one. So that's just 7 off the top of my head reasons why signage is important, and all of you said a lot of good ones. Yes, Damaris mentions my et tu tippus. Yes, that was, yeah, that was, it's surprising how many tips I get just from that sign. Even at Gen Con a week ago, I was, I would go there and busk out in the halls there at Gen Con, and I had somebody just walk by, look at the tip, my little tip bucket. Well, here, I can go back to that and show you. Yes, here we go. Let me go back to that. And they'll et tu tippus there at the bottom, the little tip thing right there, and they just look at it and laugh, and then just kind of shrug, go over and put money in. And I knew they were just tipping me because of that sign and how funny it was. I mean, they might have tipped me otherwise, but I don't think so, to be honest. And my ego can handle that. It's just, it's the little things sometimes. And it is a nice thing. So something to enjoy. Et tu tippus, always a classic. And Damaris is right. Where did I park? Who am I? What year is it? I mean, at the end of the day, if you did fair right, you should almost be at that point, because you should have such a great time where you don't know what you're doing or where you are. I mean, that's the best way to do fair. But it's important for signs to help you get through these moments, worthwhile though they are. Okay. And Oklahoma Ren Fair does parking by different historical monarchs. That's true. TRF has big signage too. I mean, fairs are very common with that. It's starting to get better. I think it's more common, but signage, it takes time and is expensive. And small fairs, I mean, they have to, they have very little money, and they try to put it where they can just to grow the fair. So I get it. But, and also smaller fairs, it's sometimes easier to find your car because the parking lot is not as vast. But it can be tough. And especially what I've noticed is when I go to fair day after day, weekend after weekend, by the 4th weekend I park, and then suddenly I'll walk out and just to the employee section, I'm like, wait a minute. And I'm starting to remember where I parked, last week and yesterday and all of these other times. And I'm like, which one is today? Right there. Okay. And it takes me a second. So it does help. It does. But yes. Okay. Well, thanks everybody. Another interesting week. I'll have a lot more to share with you next week and some fun stuff. But for today, just a little bit of future things are happening. So a lot of good news and good stuff. I hope you've had a good week, and I hope you have a great one coming up, because, well, if you love fair, I think you deserve a good week. I'm just saying. Oh, wow. Oh, right, Cat, and that is good advice. Always park on the rocks to avoid Mount Hope mud. Yes, yes, you got to be careful about the mud. Always think about the day. What the weather is going to be like. Is it going to rain? Are you going to need help to get your car out of the mud? These are important questions, and you should ask yourself these every morning at Faire. Always good. So have a great weekend, everybody, and I'll see you next week for another day of Faire life. Take care.